the biggest song, you're thinking about those kind of things. Biggest song, like after my dad passed away, was right around the time George Strait came out with "Love Without End." Amen.
Oh yeah.
That is always a song that I'm going to relate to that. I
Sure.
play it for my dad every his birthday, his anniversary of his death day. I mean, I get emotional around those 2 days, and I
Sure.
don't even have to say anything to my wife. She's like, it's one of those 2 days going on right now. I said at the anniversary of his death. She just knows. She just
Sure.
she's read me over the last 28 years.
There you go, man. Well, then you're a fortunate man.
That's not always good having her read me though.
Some pages are a centerfold, Rob Charles.
We're going to keep that off the record.
Yes. Proud of you. Yeah.
So we got a scare from you a month or so ago.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit? I mean, I had conversed with your wife. You guys were enjoying your anniversary in Italy, and I told her, hey, just whenever you guys get back, we'll hook up for an interview. And something happened a couple days later.
Without getting too graphic into the details, I ended up getting sepsis, which you can get through any kind of an infection. It's your white blood cells kind of going haywire, and because the bacteria is essentially escaping whatever localized thing that is going on, whether it's a sinus infection or a kidney infection, or you had a cut, or you got, a rusty nail or surgery or whatever, and what can happen is it starts to rage and you run a really super high fever, and it just gets out of control. And that's what happened to me. I ended up in the emergency room at 5 a.m. and spent a couple of days in the ICU, and it was a little scary. I think it's scarier for my wife because I was out of it for so much of the first part of it. It is more common than we think, and it's, in one sense, it's like it's been a lesson in that I don't have to worry about it looking towards my future. It is a roll of the dice situation. But what it does do is, on the backside, when I'm infection free, that's all gone. I don't have any symptoms, I don't have any pain, but you just go through this thing of you have to restart all your motors, so to speak, and it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And if you go too fast, you'll have a little bit, of a setback, and you'll lose a couple days of you can feel like you can hardly get out of bed, fatigue, So it's really about exercising, but taking it easy. And the main thing they've told me through my doctors is, do half of what you think you can do. And like the first week, I couldn't walk 100 yards. Well, now I'm up to a mile. But
Nice.
But I can't. But if I push it too hard, I'll have to waste 2 days of barely being able to get out of bed. So it is just to take it slow, take it. The interesting thing is for me is there are things that help that are not very physically taxing, but that are manual things. Playing your guitar is essentially connecting your brain back to your hands. So like playing scales slowly really helps me with the brain fog that comes along with this, or with, I can feel it actually is a little bit of exercise. It doesn't seem like much, but it is a little bit, and singing, same way. For me, I love to fly fish, and so I've gotten into tying flies and, making little pieces of art from that. And I'm going to get wet in a river and tear up, or lose in the rhododendron. And, but that manual dexterity thing, super helpful. It's odd when they say, "Oh yeah, write with a pencil and a piece of paper, not on your computer." And you're like, "What? Why?" I said, "Because it
People
really
do that
reconnects."
anymore?
Yeah, but it helps you reconnect your extremities, or your dexterous things back to your brain. And so I'm doing all of those kinds of things, and I'm going to physical therapy a couple times a week, and as long as I keep following doctors and Cindy's orders, I'm going to get there just fine. I'm heading in the right direction. It just takes a minute or two.
I remember when I had talked to Cindy and you guys. She was like, "We're going to be coming home from Italy in a couple days," and I said, "We'll just connect when you guys get back." And then I wake up one morning and it's all over TMZ. It's on and I'm like,
well, one thing I can suggest you don't do is don't go when you're in the hospital. Don't look up the mortality rate on sepsis because it's not good.
Did you get with Chat GPT and he discouraged you?
I learned that I am fortunate to be here and thankful to God. So there is that.
We are also fortunate for you to be here and thankful to God that you're still here. Like I said, I was just kind of like, wow. I mean, everything was cool a couple of days ago, and now this. Yeah. And then I was very relieved when, they said you were coming out of ICU, everything was looking better, and I immediately, it came up. See, this is a rescheduled interview. We were supposed to do the interview like 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is right in the middle of all that. Oh, I got with Cindy. I'm like, hey, would it be better if we kind of pushed it? She's like, it would probably be best. I said, there's no big deal at all. Whatever works for Radney. I mean, if it's 2 weeks, a month, it doesn't matter. I said him getting to feel better is the most important thing.
It's never funny. It's never funny when you're in it. But if we can make it through together and look back at it, this particular thing is not funny at all. But the point you made earlier, I saw somebody, I don't remember how they worded it, but it was money. They worded something along the lines of, it's been bacon and pork chops were the number one cause of heart attacks. And then they said in 2026, it's
GPT.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, that was the number one.
Dr. Chat.
Yeah. It was. That's what it did, because somebody will look up a sore throat and they'll have a heart attack, and all the reasons they're probably dying on Chat.
Chat is a doctor. Yeah. He's a lawyer. He is a consultant.
And wrong on song credits. You want to really figure out how often AI is wrong? Ask them who wrote which song. Or who sang background vocals on something, because it'll say something to me that I'll go, that's wrong. I know it's wrong. I was sitting in the room when I wrote it with the person I wrote it with.
Yeah.
It's like, or I was in the studio, it's like, it's really been, and Cindy uses it a lot, when we're writing press releases or things like that. They'll always want a little tidbit of the story, and she's like, "Wow, I wonder who sang background, but who is that? Is that Kim Ritchie singing background vocals on that, or is that Mary Chapin Carpenter?" And she'll go look it up, and she goes, "They just said somebody who's not even either one of those people." And so and she'll come asking me, and I'll say, I think it was, but it is wrong often. So I think
it got me mad because it got me mad because I've got one song that is published and it is on Spotify that I co-wrote. But if you go and ask her who wrote that song, the only person they give credit to is the guy who sang it, which is co-writer. But my name don't come out. If you go on Spotify, my name is there. But if you don't go to Spotify, Chad don't know who I am, and I'm kind of ticked about that.
Yeah, It will say that I wrote songs with all kinds of people that including.
You're like, man, I'm not getting my BMI rights from that.
There you go.
Make chat send you the check out.
Yeah, there you go.
You were still playing out, doing shows before this, right?
Oh yeah. We my last shows were right before we went to Italy. It was the 30th anniversary for my wife and I. And
Happy anniversary! I was going to tell you that.
That was it was great, and we went to Rome and then down to Naples and then across from Naples we drove from Naples all the way across over to the other side of the boot to Puglia, which is the olive and vegetable and wheat breadbasket of a huge portion of Italy. And so it's like going to just the most fertile valley in the whole wide world. And I if you really want to be humbled by how small our time here is, walk through a grove of 1,000-year-old olive trees and realize that people have been harvesting olives from that grove of trees for 20 lifetimes.
Wow.
That will make you think, especially after you went to go see the Colosseum in Rome. So
I was going to ask if you made it to Rome and got to go see the Vatican and St. Peter's Cathedral, or St. Peter's, I think it is.
St. Peter's, yeah.
I used to be up on the Catholic religion. I'm not so much anymore. But you lost me a while ago because you're like, we went from Rome down to Naples. I'm like, heck, I did that in one day, but that was Rome, Georgia, and Florida.
Not Georgia down to Florida. No,
that's the only Rome to Naples I ever did.
Two things, Radney, what you just said. Most people in the United States that don't get to travel abroad, they don't realize how young and how small we are.
Oh yeah, I mean, 250 years seems like a long time for us as a country, but it's really not. The thing that I got reminded of was we went to a little. It's the only other place that I had been that was like that. We were in a town called Matera. And it is in a canyon, a limestone canyon, with the top plateau has got all these olive groves and wheat fields on it. And but people have been living in caves there for 8,000 years.
Yep.
And if you go, and what was remarkable about going there and seeing that at some point in the 1400s, people started building a whole city in the two and on top of those caves. And there was never any city built up around there, but 30 miles north of my hometown of Del Rio is a canyon and there's multiple canyons, but Seminole Canyon, there are artwork, pictographs from Native Americans that are 12,000 years old.
Isn't that the Anasazi?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's 30 miles north of Del Rio, right on the Rio Grande. And it's when you start to realize that, we've been searching for meaning and making art and making food and making things that no one would have thought were tasty. I mean, that we are a creative species. We have the ability to really do something cool. And, I consider it a joy and a pleasure that I get to make music that makes people, I always say that people come up to me in the autograph line and they'll be like, you made me cry, grown man. And I said, well, then I did my job.
Yes, sir.
I listen. I always say, if I make you laugh and I make you cry and I make you want to kiss your sweetheart at the end of the night, then I did my job. And and that's what the thing I found out about both places is the drawings and paintings, the way that they made them in both of those places, one over in Europe and one here in America, were part of storytelling. They didn't paint it. They painted the colors in different ways and in different places so that it revealed the panther that they had killed, or it revealed the mammoth, or it revealed the battle or the hunt. That it was storytelling.
I'm surprised at the level. So much of that appears on the surface, and even digging into it, it appears so completely primitive because they're using handprints or whatever it is. It seems initially so primitive until somebody, usually hundreds of us modern people, look at it, and then somebody is standing there eating a chili dog, and they notice that it's telling an entire story using prime numbers or math or something. And and
that it's oriented toward the North Star.
What you need to do is get a couple of stoners on a Friday night to go in there, and they could probably read the whole wall for you.
It's always the fat guy eating a honey bun that's standing there that had an epiphany, and that's his only contribution. But he just dislodged, and the flow began again on the whole thing.
There you go.
If you go to Reynolds Castle, and y'all have been all around it, you and Cindy, but the ruins of Reynolds Castle still stand at Loch Lomond. And that's the chapel that was my ancestors built. It has no roof, but the everything else is still there. The Christian altar is on top of the old Druid altar. That's it's 1,300 years and change, right? And we're freaking out over here because so-and-so's his family's lived in that house for 100 years, and over there, or Edinburgh or Aberdeen, right? That's where I did so much of my running and stomping over in that side. I dropped down to Italy, but I didn't get to spend for me, if I could roll with you and Cindy, A, I promise I wouldn't embarrass you, and B,
no, he would.
Well, I probably would. And then, and then the other side is, you guys, man, y'all are a great middle because you have always been such a champion of humanity and all the houses, all the tribes. And I always try to be a good representative of where I'm from and leave the best parts of me behind and take part of them when I go. But I've never been able to. I've never covered at the level you and Cindy have. I've never covered.
Well, I think. Thank you. I'm going to take that as a great compliment. And I married a writer, and I think the thing about both of us and travel, and then also music. I mean, the great thing about playing music for all of these years is that I've had this opportunity to travel all over the place and see places all over America and Canada and Mexico, and then also all over Europe that I never would have had that opportunity if I'd have, stayed in Del Rio and become a lawyer. I just, I think the curiosity of looking at life and trying to figure out how to make a piece of poetry, or trying to write a short story. I write short fiction these days too. And all the other ways in which I'm just trying to tell a story, I think part of that brings you humility to go, well, this is what I believe, but it would just be so arrogant for me to believe that I'm the only one who has it right.
Yes, sir.
That would just be nothing but arrogance on my part. And I just think that, as an artist and as a storyteller, it's better for me to dig around in what you called about the universal. We all suffer the loss of parents. All of us, every one of us, some way, somehow, along the way. God forbid we suffer the loss of children.
Yes, sir.
But I know I have not, thankfully, but I know so many friends and loved ones who have. We all feel the joy that makes us go, I want to spend my life with that person. And I didn't, and I've done that twice. And the first time it didn't work out, but my intention was never for someday, in the back of my mind, that someday this is going to fall apart, or that I would feel pain when it fell apart. But all of those are human experiences, and they're universal in a way. I mean, you can understand them in any language and in any custom, and to be able to just try to express that is just, I mean, I think that's the essence of why we call it country music. We call it that because it comes from a rurality, really, because it came from poor folks, poor Native Americans, poor Black folks, and poor people from Europe got here, brought their instruments with them, and we made this thing. We made three things that are uniquely American: jazz, country music, and rock and roll. And whether it's from the hills of Appalachia to the plains of Wyoming to New Orleans, I mean, and everything in between. I mean, it is that rough and tumble music. None of it's sophisticated, and it's infinitely sophisticated at the same time. But there's something about that, something about that thing that is just incredibly attractive. I mean, try to play as raw as Hank Sr. or Howlin' Wolf. It's hard to do.
You remember do you remember the,
but man, you hear it even in some new singer who came out yesterday. You hear it. You still hear it.
You can't, if it's they're still, their spirit, that piece of the ether that was in them is still salt and pepper through every dreamer that's coming up. And to your point, you're working with them, taking your stardust that you've collected and giving it back, because it was never yours to begin with. We keep it moving.
Amen.
And the thing that there was a couple things, Ralphie May, you remember him? He was an angel, that comedian.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was so funny, and so much of that comes from pain. You learn how there's two ways to approach. Robert Williams was another example. There's two ways to approach. You either laugh in the face of the heartbreak, or you roll up and die. And they chose, both of them chose option B or option A. And Ralphie, one of the greatest things, to your point, he walked into an extremely racially charged environment where he was the only one who looked like himself. And that didn't mean anything to him because of his perspective. He had his correct perspective, and the disruptors weren't allowed to disrupt. The ones who had agitated and had created that false narrative that had all the ants shook up in the jar. And he came out with one statement right in the beginning of, he was surrounded by darker shaded humanity, and he walked out into all of it, and they were stone silent. And he said, I'm from a redneck place called Arkansas. They say it's redneck. He said, but we didn't really see that many people with a red neck. He said, knew a few people that didn't have a neck. He said, it was one of those things where basically we weren't racist. He said, we were poor. He said there were black people, white people. We didn't have time to be racist. We were eating cereal out of a Cool Whip bowl that was stained with spaghetti sauce. He said we were poor. He said, and once he said that, it universally struck. It destroyed the virus that had been artificially installed. And so those people, like you're talking about, those things around the world is applicable. We just had FIFA in Texas. And two of the young, there's a brother and sister who are incredible, Maddie and Colton, who work with us. And they're angels. You and Cindy will absolutely just be like, oh, because their whole family is incredible people, beautiful humanity. And these two kids stepped out there. She's 17, he's 15, and their spirit came out. And all those people whose language, English wasn't the first language, but music is, and they spoke, they sang, and in the hundreds of thousands of people connected with these kids on one show that they were asked to come back 4 more times. That's and awesome. They did this. So my point is, we're trying to do the same thing on opposite ends, and you're reinforcing those who may have had their light flicker a little bit, and those who never got a chance to shine, you're helping them blaze. And that's our gift.